Revealed, the incredible transformation of a lonely rancher and the beaten mother of 3 girls. The sun hadn't yet appeared over the jagged peaks of Montana when Caleb rose from his worn bed. He stepped into the cool morning air, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on him. The sprawling ranch echoed with the relentless wind, and his heart felt as heavy as the ancient barn that bore witness to generations before him. Loneliness visits those who wrestle with their thoughts in silence, and Caleb was a master of self-reliance, donning his solitude like armor. As the first light broke through, casting long shadows, he wondered if it would be another day of dwindling hopes. Across town, Sarah juggled her 3 spirited daughters, their laughter and energy a stark contrast to the worry etched into her features. Tossing pancakes onto plates, she wore her tiredness like a badge, a reminder of her struggles. The throbbing ache of financial insecurity loomed over her family like a dark cloud. Just when she thought she had finally found stability, an act of cruelty shattered her world, as whispers of eviction filled the air. Her hands trembled, not from fatigue, but from the fear of losing everything. As Caleb spotted the for sale sign in Sarah's yard, something shifted in his chest. It was a familiar ache, one he'd endured too long. Sensing her desperation, he felt compelled to help. It wasn't simply a sense of duty, it was recognition of shared human struggle. Their paths met on the cracked pavement of their town, where they exchanged stories of loss and isolation under the Montana sun. In their bond, the warmth of community began to flicker. Neighbors gathered for roadside barbecues, laughter mingling with the scent of grilled meat. It felt unusual yet liberating. Caleb, who once found solace only in the solitude of cattle and hay bales, felt the tug of connection and anchor amidst the relentless winds. Sarah, her voice trembling as she shared her fears under blanket of twinkling stars, found strength in vulnerability. But just as dawn followed the night, shadows crept in. Whispers of prejudice echoed through the town, threatening to unravel the fragile peace that had formed. Caleb felt a tightening in his chest. Could he rise above the bias that had long permeated this community? The weight of societal judgment wove through their alliance, straining the fabric of hope they had begun to stitch together. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Caleb and Sarah prepared for the inevitable confrontation, he felt a mixture of dread and determination. This wasn't just about saving her home, it was about standing up for what was right. Their growing bond illuminated the injustices they faced. Would they manage to navigate the coming storm, or would the whispers tear them apart? The stakes had never been higher. They stood on the precipice of change, ready to challenge not only their own fears but also the town that had long held its prejudices. What would be the outcome of their fight? As shadows loomed, hope flickered like a flame waiting to ignite. The morning sun cast a soft, golden glow over the town, illuminating the tension that hung in the air. Caleb stood at the edge of his property, hands resting on the fence as he watched the horizon. Each breath felt heavier than the last, laden with the weight of the challenges ahead. The wind rustled through the grass, whispering reminders of the support he had begun to gather among the neighbors. He could feel their eyes on him, shadows that both encouraged and critiqued. Across town, Sarah prepared for the community meeting, her heart racing. She sat at the kitchen table, daughters scattered around her, working on school projects. They chuckled and played with colorful crayons, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just outside their door. As their laughter filled the room, Sarah forced a smile, a comforting shield against her rising anxiety. She was not just fighting for herself but for their future, and that thought fueled her resolve. The meeting took place in the town hall, the walls lined with fading photographs of a more prosperous era. It felt like stepping into a lioness' den. Folks from all walks of life gathered, faces etched with worry and disbelief as the issues at hand were set to unfold. Caleb entered, instantly feeling the heat of scrutiny from seasoned community members. Every whispered word, every sideways glance, seemed to slice deeper than he expected. "Thank you all for coming," the mayor's voice echoed, cutting through the ambient chatter. "We need to address some serious situations in our town. The future of many families is at stake." Sarah's heart thudded in her chest. This was her moment. As she stepped up to speak, her voice trembled, echoing the deepest fears she harbored. "Thank you for listening. I'm here because I want to save my home, not just for myself but for my children. We all deserve the safety and security of a place to call our own." For a heartbeat, there was silence, a collective breath held between those who understood, those who judged. Caleb found the courage to rise alongside her. With a strong yet warm voice, he articulated the bond he felt with Sarah. "We all know what it's like to struggle. We shouldn't be fighting against one another when we can fight against the injustice that threatens us all." His words wrapped around the room, pulling light into the gathering shadows, yet, as murmurs of support began to rise, so did opposition. A few stern faces shifted from skepticism to outright hostility. "You want to protect this family?" One gruff voice scoffed. "What about our own? Why should we help someone who is different?" The room filled with murmurs. Each comment struck like thunder, the once warm atmosphere now chilling. Caleb felt anger flare inside him, and dread threatened to drown out hope. He glanced at Sarah, whose eyes shone with tears, fear intermingling with the flicker of determination. This was their test. Would they buckle under the weight of prejudice, or would they rise above, hand in hand? As the minutes stretched into an uncomfortable eternity, Caleb knew they had to gather their strength. They couldn't let the darkness snuff out the fragile light they had kindled together. The moment was electric, filled with potential yet crackling with uncertainty. With every hour that passed, Caleb's resolve solidified. He would stand alongside Sarah, not just for her family, but for every family that felt the sting of injustice. But as they prepared for the next battle, Caleb couldn't shake the feeling that greater challenges awaited. Shadows loomed larger on the horizon, threatening to unravel their hard-won community thread by thread. What if this was just the beginning of a fight that would test the very limits of their courage? The question clawed at him as he stood in silence, united with Sarah by both fear and hope. Would they prevail in the face of overwhelming adversity, or would the town's biases twist their newfound community into something unrecognizable? In the days that followed the meeting, tension gripped the town tightly, like a vice around each soul. Caleb and Sarah found themselves united by a purpose that felt bigger than both of them. The whispers in the streets grew louder, as neighbors exchanged opinions while shopping, at the post office, and in coffee shops. The weight of their fight was a constant reminder, but so was the support that slowly began to coalesce. Caleb started taking evening walks through the neighborhood, a low hum of determination pulsing beneath his skin. Locals now greeted him with nods, some even offering supportive smiles. He could sense a change, a crack forming in the indifference that had once kept the community at bay. Sarah, too, felt the shift. She found comfort in the shared experiences of mothers rallying around her, some stepping forward, voicing their own fears about their homes, their futures. As she watched her daughters playing in the yard, their laughter ringing like chimes in the crisp air, a surge of hope filled her. Maybe they could change this thing together. Caleb met Sarah in the small park after dinner, the sun setting behind them, casting everything in hues of pink and orange. He could see the spark in her eyes and felt a warmth deepen in his chest, igniting a possibility he hadn't dared to embrace before. "I heard Mrs. Johnson wants to speak out. She struggles a lot but is ready to fight," Caleb said, his hands gripping the weathered wooden bench. "Really?" Sarah's brows lifted, excitement bursting in her tone. "If she stands with us, we could get others to join in. People need to see that this is about all of us." At that moment, it struck Caleb just how much there was to gain. If we can invite more voices, maybe we can hold another meeting. Share our stories. Give folks a reason to care. The idea brightened the air between them. Sarah nodded vigorously. "A community gathering could be just what we need. If we can make it feel more personal, like telling stories around a campfire, they can't ignore us, right? The next week, they arranged the gathering under the sprawling oak tree that stood sentinel at the park's edge. Flyers circulated, and word spread like wildfire. Caleb and Sarah worked side by side, pouring their energy into creating a space where fear could transform into strength, where vulnerability could bridge differences. As they set up chairs, string lights, and snacks for the kids, Sarah felt her heart flutter with nervous excitement. She caught sight of people arriving, families bringing their own stories. She recognized Mrs. Johnson trudging over with her children, and behind her, a handful of neighbors whose faces were marked with skepticism but edged with curiosity. But even as hope blossomed, the shadow of doubt crept in. Caleb sensed it too, a worry that choked him when he realized they were still vulnerable. The stickiness of prejudice was hard to shake, and the menacing glares occasionally swept across the gathering from those resistant to change. As night cooled the air, Caleb and Sarah took turns sharing their stories, their voices rising above the murmurs and laughter. Each tale peeled back layers of fear, revealing wounds and desires underneath. Someone spoke of losing a job, another about a parent's health crisis, creating a web of struggles that echoed through the crowd. Yet, amidst this communal sharing, Caleb noticed a figure lingering at the perimeter: Nathan, a prominent business owner known for his explosive temper. Memories of tension from the last town meeting dashed through Caleb's mind. Would Nathan's ire erupt again when he realized people were gathering in solidarity? With each passing story, the atmosphere thickened, filled with warmth and connection that seemed to counter the bitterness lurking at the edges. But Caleb couldn't ignore the gnawing uncertainty. What would happen if Nathan decided to grab the megaphone next? Would their proclamations of unity crumble at his feet? As voices twinkled with hope, Caleb braced himself for whatever storm might loom ahead, knowing resilience might just be the anchor they needed. And as the stars began to twinkle overhead, he wondered, could this gathering truly be the turning point they all so desperately needed? Would the strength they found in each other hold against the storm coming their way? Caleb's heart raced as Sarah wrapped up her story, calling for anyone else who wanted to share. The air pulsed with anticipation, a living thing that wrapped around them all under the shimmering stars. He could feel the heat of Nathan's gaze from the edge of the gathering, but instead of letting it intimidate him, he channeled that energy inward. Mrs. Johnson stepped forward, her hands trembling. I lost my job last month. The factory had to cut back and her voice broke, and Caleb's stomach twisted. Here they were, vulnerable. Yet, this moment was theirs, a chance to blossom despite the discomfort. Keep going, Sarah encouraged softly, stepping closer. With a deep breath, Mrs. Johnson straightened her back. I could barely afford rent. I spent nights crying, afraid of what would happen to my children. You know, as mothers we worry. But I'm here. I want this for all of us. I want a community where I don't have to feel alone. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, voices whispering back their own struggles as they formed a tapestry of shared pain and resilience. Caleb felt a swell of pride mix with fear. They were breaking through walls. Caleb stepped next, compelled to add his voice. My family has farmed here for generations. We've faced droughts and storms, but we've never backed down. Together, we can weather this too. His declaration ignited something visceral in the crowd. They weren't just stories anymore, but a summoning, a rallying cry against apathy. Then Nathan moved. The crowd went hush as he stepped forward, towering, the streetlight casting an ominous shadow over his imposing figure. Is this really what you want? To band together against progress? His voice sliced through the night, sharp and taunting. You think sharing your pain is going to change anything? You're just digging deep for more misery. Caleb clenched his fists, heat rising in his cheeks. Why was Nathan here? It was supposed to be a night of hope, not a battleground. This isn't about misery. It's about strength. We're tired of feeling powerless, and together we are stronger. But Nathan's sneer deepened, eyes glinting with a mix of amusement and menace. Stronger? Or just more foolish? He surveyed the crowd, his gaze lingering on the faces of mothers, fathers, and children, those ready to unlock their own stories. I'll give you this, no one is listening to your sob stories. You'll get nowhere with this nonsense. The air thickened, a standoff brewing, but Sarah took a step forward, her voice calm yet unwavering. You don't know us. This community is not nonsense. These stories hold courage and determination. And we won't let fear silence us anymore. Gasps of enthusiasm spread like wildfire. Caleb couldn't help but grin. Each response from the crowd strengthened their collective resolve. Caleb noticed a flicker of hesitation flash in Nathan's eyes, just for a moment, a glimpse of uncertainty that perhaps this wasn't going to go as he intended. Still, Caleb knew they had to keep moving, they couldn't let Nathan steal their thunder. Everyone deserves to be heard, he called out, pulling their attention back to the group. We come together not just to share what's wrong, but to envision what could be better jobs, safer streets, a supportive community. A chorus of voices chimed in, one after another, each fed by the light of another's courage. But amidst this rising tide of voices, Caleb noticed a distinct look passing over Nathan's face, a flicker of something darker, a storm brewing beneath the surface, as if he were contemplating his next move. As the crowd began to chant, their energy surging, Caleb felt a mix of hope and dread. Would Nathan resort to threats? Would their hard-earned night of unity dissolve into chaos? He swallowed, his heart pounding, steeling himself for whatever was to come. In the depths of uncertainty, he realized transformation was on the horizon. But first, they would have to face whatever Nathan might throw at them next. Could the unity forged in that moment be strong enough to confront the fight ahead? What price would they need to pay for their newfound courage? Caleb's breath caught in his throat as Nathan's eyes narrowed, calculating, like a predator sizing up its prey. The energy in the air shifted, turning from hopeful to suffocating. He glanced around at the faces of his neighbors illuminated by the flickering light. There was fire in their eyes, determination that mirrored his own, but Caleb could sense Nathan's claws getting closer. Are you sure you want to stand together? Nathan mocked, his voice dripping with scorn. Because I can show you just how weak you all are. One little push, and it all comes crashing down. Caleb felt a chill sweep through the crowd as murmurs of doubt began to filter through the sea of voices. His heart raced. Was Nathan right? Would they crumble when faced with real opposition? Then, from the edge of the gathering, a small figure stepped forward. It was Julia, a shy 10-year-old girl, her blonde hair reflecting the glow of the streetlight. Caleb's heart fluttered. She had been standing on the periphery, too frightened to speak, but now she appeared resolute. Caleb could hardly believe it when she lifted her chin, eyes blazing. Mr. Nathan, you don't know my mom, she said, her voice steady despite the quaver in her voice. She was scared when we lost our house, but she never gave up. She keeps trying. We might be small, but if we all stand together, we can be like a big tree. With strong roots. You can't pull us out. A wave of awe swept through the crowd, rekindling their courage. Slowly, more voices began to rise, echoing Julia's analogy, transforming Jonathan's doubts into resolve. The strength of their community, the intertwining roots of their lives, shone like bright stars against the dark troposphere of fear Nathan had tried to cast over them. Caleb stepped closer to Julia, gratitude swelling within him. Exactly. Just look at us. Every single one of us has fought our own battles, we're not going to let one man's ignorance tear us apart. As those words left his lips, Caleb caught a glimpse of Nathan's snarled expression morphing into irritation, then something colder. Caleb could feel the tension crackling. This was a moment swirling with potential, and he knew they had to capitalize. Suddenly, Nathan surged forward, like a storm embodied. You think you can just stand there and shout about your dreams? This town is like any other, it's survival of the fittest. You want to be heard? Fine. But it's going to cost you. Gasps exploded like fireworks, the crowd recoiling. What did he mean? Caleb's chest felt tight, the fear returning. Cost us what? Sarah demanded, voice piercing through the confusion, a tower of strength amidst uncertainty. Nathan smiled, a sinister glimmer in his eyes. Everything you cherish. You really want to take a stand? I can take everything from you, just like that. In that instant, Caleb's heart raced. Was Nathan really capable of such destruction? The weight of reality settled like a lead brick on his shoulders. He wasn't just a naysayer. Nathan was a threat of force that could shatter everything they were trying to build together. Caleb, what do we do? Someone whispered, breaking through the tumultuous storm in his mind. He dared to look into the faces surrounding him, fear mingled with rising defiance. He could lead them to safety or into a trap. Tonight, we show him. We show him we're not afraid of that cost, Caleb declared, loud and resolute, even as doubt lingered. Let us transform fear into action. If we're going to confront Nathan, we need to stand united. There's power in our voices. In our stories. In our fight for what matters. A collective cheer rose from the crowd, the energy surging again, louder this time. But as he spoke, Caleb felt a knot of anxiety. What had he just proclaimed? His words were a rallying cry, yet he knew Nathan was watching, calculating. Tonight may mark the beginning of something. But will there be a tomorrow? What will we have to sacrifice for this courage? As they rallied together, the knowing glance shared between Caleb and Nathan promised that the confrontation was far from over. With every heartbeat, they were drawing a new line. What uncharted territory would they navigate next? What could this newfound courage cost them? The murmur of victory flooded the air, but the underlying tension felt fragile, like a thread ready to snap. Caleb could see his neighbors' faces alight with resolve, yet behind their brave expressions, uncertainty flickered in their eyes. Did they fully grasp the whirlwind approaching them? They rallied together, voices blending into a symphony of strength, but in Caleb's chest, anxiety beat against hope like a stubborn drum. Nathan's predatory smile expanded, and suddenly the power dynamic felt like a shifting sand dune, unstable and dangerous. It was clear he was not finished yet. I admire your spirit, Nathan said, his tone smooth as silk, sizing them up. But let us see how long you can keep this dance going. The real question is, what will happen when I pull the strings? Caleb watched Nathan gesture toward the darkened storefronts that framed the street. With each movement, Caleb felt a flare of fear shoot through him. He knew the town's struggle, every eviction, every closed door, every personal loss that loomed like shadows in their lives. Nathan could do it. He could turn their hope to dust. Caleb inhaled, determination coursing through him like a fresh breeze. You may think you're strong, Nathan. But this community has been through hell and back. You threaten us with loss, but we've already tasted it. Our strength comes from surviving. From standing tall through the storm. We're ready to fight. The crowd reacted, a wave of cheering rising and crashing like a tide. Caleb felt their unity, their collective heart pulsing as one. They might bend, but they wouldn't break. If Nathan wanted a fight, he'd find they were not as weak as he thought. Yet, amid the fervor, Julia's small hand slipped into Caleb's. He looked down at her, her eyes wide with a mixture of hope and fear. It was a reminder of what they were all fighting for. Mr. Caleb, she said, voice barely above a whisper, what if he really does take everything? Her words hung in the air like a heavy fog, chilling the enthusiasm that had bloomed moments before. Caleb knelt to meet her gaze. He squeezed her hand gently. We won't let him. Remember the roots Julia talked about? They're deep and tangled together. We're all connected. Loss may come, but we'll face it together. The energy in the crowd shifted again, gaining momentum rather than losing it. Strangers exchanged reassuring glances, and those who once stood on the edges pulled closer. Let us be a voice for those who can't speak. Someone shouted from the back, igniting the spark even further. Caleb felt it, the ripple of hope expanding. They were standing up for their families, for each other. But all eyes turned to Nathan, whose expression had transformed. That predatory glint remained, but there was a new ominous weight behind it. "You'll regret this. You don't know who you're dealing with." Nathan's warning echoed through the growing crowd, a chilling reminder of the battle ahead. Just then, a loud crash from behind the back of Nathan's car disrupted the rising tension. A figure emerged, disheveled and wild-eyed. It was Timothy, the old rancher who had gone missing for months. Breathless, he stumbled into the light, clutching an old, battered piece of paper. "Everyone! You need to see this!" Timothy shouted, and every heart stopped. Caleb's heart raced. What secrets could this man unveil? Timothy made his way through the crowd, desperation etched into his features. As he reached Caleb, the paper trembled in his hands. "They're planning something much bigger than you realize. It's not just about your homes, it's about the future of this town." Caleb's chest tightened. What kind of storm had Nathan been brewing? What revelations lay ahead, and would they be ready to fight against whatever Nathan had schemed? The stakes had just risen, and Caleb sensed the wind changing. As Timothy unfolded the crumpled paper, the crowd fell silent, fear and hope clashing in the electric air. All eyes were on Nathan, and Caleb knew, the real battle was just beginning. Timothy smoothed the paper as best he could, his hands quivering. The crowd leaned in, breaths held like they awaited the start of a storm. "This," he began, his voice trembling, "this is a contract. A development deal. Nathan has plans to tear down half this town for a big box store." Gasps echoed among the gathered townsfolk. Caleb's stomach dropped at the weight of Timothy's words. Their hope was tethered to their homes, their lives. To think it could all crumble for a strip mall felt more than outrageous, it felt like a betrayal. "You're lying," Nathan snarled, eyes narrowing. "You're just an old man grasping at straws. This is a community lighthouse you want to destroy." "Nathan, we've seen your kind before," muttered a voice from the crowd. A woman, Rita, a single mother with 3 little girls, moved forward, the strength and fire in her narrowed eyes undeniable. "You want to profit from our sacrifices, but this town is built on our blood and sweat. We are the heart and soul of this place." Caleb felt that heart beat through him. So many faces in the crowd, each one a story, a struggle, a life woven into the fabric of the town. The revelation of the contract added a new layer of urgency. Timothy continued, refusing to let Nathan's threats silence him. "This isn't just about money. They're planning a property grab, targeting families like yours and mine, raising the rents until we're all gone. We can't let him do this." His voice broke slightly, a mixture of desperation and defiance. Rita's daughters watched from the back, wide-eyed. One, the youngest, clutched a worn teddy bear, the other held her sister's hand tightly. Caleb looked at them, their future hanging in a delicate balance. "We have to protect this place," he said, feeling the heat rise in him again, that flickering flame turning into a wildfire. Nathan stepped forward, his smile chillingly confident. "You think you can stop this? You're underestimating me, my friends. This town isn't worth the hassle to you anymore. You're living in the past, while I'm paving the way for the future. Together, we can fight." Caleb shouted, and this time, the crowd roared back with agreement. People began to chant, reclaiming their stance. "Together! Together! Together!" The sound filled the air, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Caleb saw determination settle on faces once shadowed by fear. Julia squeezed his hand tighter, and the unspoken connection between them felt electric. But beneath that chant, Caleb couldn't ignore the stirring dread. Nathan's fingers danced over his phone, and Caleb felt the palpable threat hanging there. What would he do while the town rallied? Would he retaliate in ways more sinister than foreseen? Then, as the air crackled with energy, Nathan spoke again. "You're making a big mistake. And if you want to find out just how far I can reach, I'll be happy to show you." With that, he turned to the crowd, eyes blazing. "Prepare for a storm you can't comprehend." The unrest shifted, an undercurrent of fear brushing through the frenzy. Caleb stood firm, no longer just reacting to Nathan's threats. He needed to confront the reality of this imminent peril. Everyone. Caleb's voice broke through the looming dread. We can't let his fear take root. We've stood together in the past, and we can do it again. We can take that contract and turn it into our plan to protect our homes. But as the crowd rallied, Caleb's heart raced for another reason. What if Nathan's storm had already begun? As shadows gathered on the horizon, thick and dark, he felt an urgent pull. Would they have time to prepare, or would the tide of change sweep them away before they could act? With fear fighting against hope, Caleb turned to the crowd. Who's with me? Cheers erupted again, but in his heart, he wondered, was it enough? They had to act, but how far was Nathan willing to go to obliterate everything they held dear? The night felt charged with unspoken tension, a prelude to what was coming. The stakes just kept rising, and Caleb knew they were standing on the edge of something monumental. Would they stand strong, or would the storm overtake them before they even knew what hit? The night wore on, the energy of the crowd spurring Caleb's heart into a rapid rhythm. Faces illuminated by the glow of the streetlights revealed a myriad of emotions: fear, hope, anger, and determination. The chants slowly faded as whispers began to ripple through the crowd. What would they do next? Timothy moved to Caleb's side, his voice low but strong. We need a plan, a way to show Nathan that we're not backing down. We can't just rely on his own greed to make him falter. Caleb nodded. He was all too aware that Nathan wouldn't go down without a fight. Let us gather everyone's ideas. We have to strategize. Reaching out to some of the other towns nearby for support could help too. If we show him we're united, he might think twice. Rita stepped forward, gripping her daughter's hands tightly. What if we organize a meeting at the community center? We can put all our voices together, rally more people, show Nathan we are more than just a number on a balance sheet. And what if we start a petition? Came a voice from the back, an elderly man with a weather-beaten face. If we get enough signatures, maybe we can prove that the community won't allow this development. Each suggestion struck a chord with Caleb. Hope flickered brighter amidst the shadows. Let us do both. Let us not just inform the town, let us make sure everyone knows what Nathan is planning. Caleb's mind raced with possibilities. If they could rally their neighbors, if they could make their voices heard loud and clear, perhaps they could tip the balance back in their favor. Just then, Julia tugged at his sleeve, pulling him into a small circle of people. We all believe in our power, Caleb, she said, her eyes sparkling. And if we can gather our allies, it could inspire others in neighboring towns too. I want the girls to grow up in a community that cares for them, not a parking lot, Rita said, her voice breaking yet resolute. Just as those thoughts circled through Caleb's mind, a sudden commotion arose at the edge of the crowd. A car had pulled up, its headlights sweeping across people's faces. The air shifted. Whispers hurriedly passed from one anxious individual to the next. He could see Nathan stepping out of the car, flanked by a couple of grim-faced associates. A knot tightened in Caleb's stomach. This wasn't just a business mogul strolling into a debate, these were men who wielded power and intimidation, and they were coming for answers. Looks like Nathan isn't finished yet, Timothy muttered beside him, eyes narrowing at the approaching figures. What does he want now? Julia whispered, gripping Caleb's arm. In that moment, Caleb realized they wouldn't just confront an idea, they would be facing a tangible threat. Nathan had come directly to unleash his message. As he approached the crowd, he faced them like an iron wall, a smirk taking form across his lips. Ah! My dear friends, he said, his voice dripping with mock sincerity. I see you've gathered here, too afraid to let go of the past. Isn't it time for you all to realize that progress will come whether you want it or not? Caleb felt heat rise to his cheeks, anger flaring. You think we'll just roll over and let you take what's ours? He shouted, his voice steady. Nathan shrugged, glancing to his associates. You can fight all you want, but just know this, I have the resources to do whatever it takes. And I won't be the only one making moves. This is just the beginning. A low murmur swept through the crowd, fear threading its way back in. Caleb clenched his fists, frustration boiling inside him. Enough of this. He shouted, stepping forward. This town might look broken to you, but it has heart and soul, our heart and our soul. If you want a fight, you'll get one. Nathan's eyes gleamed with amusement, and just for a moment, Caleb saw something else, a hint of worry behind the bravado. Maybe they were making an impact after all, but Nathan quickly regained his composure, his smile sharpening. Let us see just how much heart it takes to stand against real power. With a wave of his hand, he turned away, leaving a lingering sense of foreboding hanging thick in the night air. Caleb scanned the crowd, looking for signs of resolve. He saw it now, a defiant glimmer among the fearful faces. They would stand, but they had to prepare for what was next. The lingering question echoed loudly in his mind: how far was he prepared to go to protect what he loved? As shadows lurked deeper into the night, the challenge loomed larger. Would this be a fight for community, or a fight for survival? And deep down, Caleb knew the time for preparation was quickly running out. Caleb stood firm, feeling the pulse of the crowd beneath him. Each heartbeat echoed his determination to fight for their home. The fear was still there, gnawing at the edges of their resolve, but as he looked into the faces around him, something shifted. An ember of defiance sparked within each person, igniting minds and hearts to rally behind their cause. Timothy raised his voice, trying to combat the fear that had begun creeping back in. We can't afford to let Nathan's arrogance shake our spirit. Let us get organized. We need a clear message. Julia stepped forward, her brow furrowed with concern. But how do you defeat someone like Nathan? He is not just a businessman, he is a powerhouse. Will our voices even matter? Caleb stepped closer, his heart racing, not just for himself but for everyone standing around them. We can't let doubt take root. Together, we are stronger than he thinks. If he wants a fight, he has got one. We have the spirit of this community behind us, and we won't back down. Timothy nodded, his expression resolute now. Let us get to work. We can form teams. Some can handle the petition, while others can begin spreading the word. We need flyers, social media, anything to amplify our message. If we can demonstrate that this isn't just a few souls standing against him, but a united force, courage is contagious. Rita chimed in, her daughters resiliently standing by her side. People need to see us standing up. They need to see that we're not afraid. As they spoke, you could feel an awakening. The whispers turned into determined discussions. Caleb watched as people broke into small groups, brainstorming and strategizing. The energy shifted from fear to purpose, each volunteer sparking new ideas that layered hope on top of uncertainty. The night air buzzed with determination, laughter breaking the tension, like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Someone suggested a rally at the community center, another proposed a town-wide meeting to draw in supporters from neighboring areas. Each idea swirled in the increasing enthusiasm, transforming the fear into actionable steps. Caleb picked up Silence's gentle hand, the moment reflecting his thoughts. If they were going to fight, they had no choice but to be loud, proud, and persistent. They were all in this together. They had to be united. Just then, a young girl's voice echoed from the back. Can I help? I want to help everyone too. It was one of Rita's daughters, beaming brightly. A wave of smiles spread across the crowd, and Caleb could feel it. They were all moved by that innocence. Of course you can. Everyone can help, he said warmly, kneeling so he could look into her eyes. This fight isn't just for us, it's for you, too. This community belongs to you just as much as it does to anyone. As he stood, he saw the hope in her eyes. It was a reminder of everything they were fighting for. And when we win, we'll show everyone that standing together is what strength really looks like. But just as they began to take their first meaningful steps towards unity, a deafening horn interrupted them. A shiver ran through the crowd as Nathan's car rolled back into view, the headlights illuminating the faces that had just gathered courage. Caleb's heart dropped. Surely, it wouldn't be him again, hadn't they made it clear they were ready to fight? Nathan stepped out, a smirk plastered across his face. Isn't this adorable? You think gathering in a little circle makes you something cute? Caleb took a deep breath, summoning every bit of strength. He pushed through the throng of people until he stood directly across from Nathan. You don't understand, do you? This isn't just about you and your schemes. This is our life. The crowd stirred, ready to erupt. Caleb sensed the shifting tide, an unmistakable strength binding them together. Nathan shrugged, confidence unwavering. You think this is a fight you can win? I'm well prepared for whatever you throw at me. This is just the beginning. As Nathan turned away, a sense of urgency filled the air. Caleb knew they had to act quickly, their strength was growing, but so was Nathan's determination. The moment felt heavy with unspoken words, and as he scanned the crowd, he saw something else, fear mingled with defiance. Just then, an unexpected voice emerged from the back, a familiar face, someone who had been quiet until now. Caleb turned. I have something to say. What did this person know that could help? What revelation awaited them? Caleb felt a spark of anticipation. The next move was on the horizon, and it would change everything. The air hung heavy with anticipation, every eye turning to Timothy as he stepped beneath the streetlight, barely gathering the space to speak. He opened his mouth, and for a moment silence draped around them, a fragile barrier holding back the impending storm. I've seen a lot in my days, he began, voice steady yet infused with emotion. And once upon a time, we faced similar choices. Change is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. We can't afford to stand by now to remain voiceless. His words flared like wildfire, igniting the resolve in the crowd. Caleb watched, pride swelling in his chest. They were standing on the precipice of something extraordinary. This wasn't just a speech, it was a call to arms. You're right, he exclaimed. If we are going to fight for our lives, we need to fight together, as one. A wave of agreement rippled through the crowd. They had faced adversity before, now was a moment to rise, to show that they weren't ready to bow to outdated ideals and prejudices. A few brave souls stepped forward, emboldened by the courage becoming contagious. Caleb turned to Sarah, who had moved closer, her fierce determination reflecting in her gaze. We can organize a march. Show the town what unity looks like. It's time we take our message to the streets. We need everyone out there, together. She nodded, excitement sparking in her smile. And we'll live stream it. Let us make it impossible for Nathan to ignore our voices. Every phone, every share, bring it all. The crowd buzzed. Ideas flowed fast and furious, as individuals shared plans for signs, chants, routes, and ideas to unify. Rita's daughters drew pictures, giggling and whispering ideas to their mother, and Julia, beaming, sketched out a sign that read United We Stand. Caleb felt elated. They were no longer just a scattered crowd, they were becoming a force. But as new energy surged, Caleb cast a glance at Nathan standing not far away, arms crossed, a smug grin plastered across his face. Suddenly, reality struck like a thunderclap. Listen. Timothy's voice rang out over the murmurs, urgency rising. It's going to take more than words. If we want to stand against Nathan, we need to be ready for anything he might throw at us. He walks in power, he knows how to manipulate the system. Then we'll give him a fight he'll never forget. Caleb shouted, emboldened. We'll win over hearts, one person at a time. Just as the weight of determination began to settle, a tension filled the air as Nathan sauntered closer, venom in his words. You think your little movement is going to stop progress? You're wasting your time dragging this town back into the past. Caleb squared his shoulders, refusing to let fear creep back. No, Nathan. We're ushering this town into a brighter future, where families can thrive, not just survive. The crowd resonated with their cheers, voices intertwining beautifully, forming an unbreakable chorus behind him. Together. Together. Nathan's expression faltered, just briefly, his bravado cracking under the intensity around him, but he quickly regained his mocking tone. Cute idea, Caleb. But let us see how far that gets you when you find yourself outnumbered. The strong take what they want. Caleb felt a wave of determination crash over him, fueled more by the whispers of support in the crowd than the harshness of Nathan's words. Strength is in unity, Nathan. And you've underestimated what that means. The discussion multiplied over the next few days, a tangible energy that transformed Caleb's mind into a coherent plan. Posters were hung, the community rallied, and people from neighboring towns began to join the cause in a magnificent swell of support. On the day of the march, a sea of faces filled the streets, mothers, fathers, children, all holding signs that spoke of love, hope, and bravery. They gathered in an impressive tide of positivity, a reminder that fear would not dictate their futures. As Caleb looked out over this crowd, his heart swelled. It wasn't just about defending their homes anymore, it was about recognizing the strength inside each of them. The sun rose higher in the sky, illuminating their faces with a golden glow, a promise of a new beginning. With every step they took, their chants rang louder, united we stand. No to Nathan's greed. Neighbors greeted neighbors, their shared commitment growing ever stronger. Timothy gripped Caleb's shoulder, pride sparkling in his eyes. See this, son. This unity, this is what it means to be a part of something bigger. And for the first time, Caleb felt the weight of his isolation lift, replaced with an overwhelming sense of belonging. They marched into town, hand in hand, hearts beating as one, laughter carrying the wind. Suddenly, Nathan appeared, furious and defiant, his face a portrait of shock as he stepped from his car, flanked by his dismissive business associates. Caleb felt the weight of the moment surge between them, both a confrontation and a declaration. This was just a battle for homes, this was a stand for community, for the kindness they could share against the indifference he represented. Caleb took a step forward. You may have tried to create fear where there was hope, but look around you. This isn't just a group of neighbors anymore, we are a family. Try to take that away, and you'll find out just how strong we are. The crowd erupted, voices soaring, the very air alive with strength, a collective heartbeat, radiant in their defiance. As Nathan faltered, shocked into silence, Caleb stood firm, knowing they were no longer prisoners of fear, they had transformed into a movement. They had come together, shoulder to shoulder, willing to protect not just their homes but the very essence of the community, and in that moment, Caleb saw clear, unfettered hope. The dawn of a new era, gathered at last around the light of compassion and unity. This is what it means to fight to live with purpose. As their voices sang out in unison, he knew nothing could break them. Now is your moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support us as we grow. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending, we want to hear from you. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to show your support now, don't wait not even one more second to share.